what we really want to understand is the policy specifics. And we're going to go through a few. But before we do that, what I'd like you to do is each take a minute. And let's start with you, Beverly, because, we know a lot about the councilman, but what you bring to the table in terms of experience, and more specifically, what are the policy issues, specific policy issues that are important to you?
Well, I bring experience from being out there in the neighborhoods as a community advocate and as a community organizer. Working one with Acorn and now ACE. If you know what ACE is.
I don't know. I certainly know Acorn. I don't know ACE.
ACE is Alliance of Californians for Community Empowerment.
Okay.
And when Acorn diminished, we started up our own California, and we focused right now on foreclosures, bank modifications, bank responsibilities.
Tell you what, before I forget, I'm going to give you my card.
Mm-hmm.
And would you email me your resume and a little bit of explainer? And I assume you have a website and so forth.
Okay.
Okay. And Councilman, if you'd like to do the same, although we know quite a bit about you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anyway.
And from that,
Mm-hmm.
not to make it a long story,
Mm-hmm. That's okay.
I've gained a lot of experience in working with other organizations dealing with some of the same or similar campaigns or problems that we have, and working on steering committees that help establish organizations from the bottom up, create them from the bottom up.
Let me ask you something real specific, Reverend.
Yes.
Tell me, because I'm familiar with Acorn, obviously, but what specifically do you do? Because, Acorn had different hats and different roles.
Yeah.
What specifically is your training, your background, and what do you do?
What do I do?
Yeah.
As far as, I work for one, and that the
I'm sorry,
community service. I have a regular job.
Yeah.
And so the other half, which is ACE,
Okay.
is I call it my second job.
Okay.
Because I'm committed to doing whatever it takes to get something done. For example, I'm working right now with the Community Economic Development Department on the vacancy property ordinance. That's the one that was just passed by City Council recently, and that is sitting at the table, working out how to develop it, how to get it started, how to get it implemented, setting up the people that's doing research and development on it, and then getting it from the table to committee to City Council for a yay or nay.
Okay. And when you say that you have another job, what's your other job?
My regular job?
Yeah.
Well, right now I'm working with, I'll say it out, continuing education of the bar. It's not the state bar. It's continuing education of the bar under the umbrella of the University of California in the Budget and Finance Department. So that's just my regular day job.
And so in the Budget and Finance Department, is that to say you have budget and finance experience?
Yeah.
You're not a budget
Yeah,
analyst.
not
or
a
anything.
budget analyst.
Okay.
No. My strong profession is personnel administration,
Okay.
and I spent over 20 years in that as a specialist from staffing classification, employee relations, labor relations, personnel management, etc.
For whom?
Federal government.
In what department?
Health and Human Services at the time was not. A lot of things have changed since
Right,
then.
yeah. It doesn't have the same name.
Doesn't have the
right.
same name.
And I remember even, I believe before it was Health and Human Services.
Yeah, it was HHS.
Yeah.
And then SSA and
Yeah.
on down the road.
So, what are your top 3 policy issues? And I don't need you to expand on them. I just want to know what your issues are, and what are the 3 most important issues for you?
Well, one is public health and safety, especially in my community. 2 would be jobs and job creations with permanent jobs at a nice, fair, decent wage, livable wage. And then the community and economic development, stabilizing it in our community.
Councilman.
Yes.
So, which term would this be?
If I'm successful,
Yeah.
it'll be my 15th.
50. I knew it was a lot, I just didn't remember how many.
Yeah, first Monday in January will have made 16 years.
Okay. And you still want to keep doing this, huh?
I want to do it for 4 more years, yes.
Okay. So you're saying this is the last go-round?
This is the last one.
Why is this the last one?
Because I think I will have almost completed all the things that I started out to do to change a part of the city that long needed to be changed.
Okay. So, tell me your 5, if there are 5. Tell me your 3 top issues.
My 3 top issues is public safety and economic development. That both can be one since both of them are interrelated.
Okay, I'm going to count as 2.
Oh, you can count it as 2.
And what's your 3rd?
And just overall, just improving the quality of life issues that that are impacting not just my community in which I was elected to serve, but throughout the city of Oakland.
Let me tell you guys just a little bit about where we as an editorial board are coming from, okay? Our top issues are the financial stability of the city
Mm-hmm.
and public safety, and we see that those 2 go hand in hand. So I'm going to ask you a lot of questions, financial questions, because that's our shtick. That's what we're most worried about. We are most worried, frankly, about the financial viability of the city
Mm-hmm.
in the next few years, especially, but also long term. So let me start out by asking you, Councilman, when I say unfunded liability, what comes to mind?
Police and fire, retirement.
Okay. Only police and fire retirement?
No, well, there's pension obligation.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And to you, Beverly, what comes to mind?
And let me just say this
Okay.
also, and also the debt on that facility out there that where our sports franchises
Where,
play it.
oh, your sports franchise? You mean that thing called the Oakland Coliseum?
Yes.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, there's a complex deal.
Very complex.
Yeah. Beverly, when I talk about unfunded liability, what jumps out at you?
I think about the basically the same thing he
Mhm.
has, and in addition to that, I would add the lack of having a hedge fund or something to support where we're not supported. What do you call it? A rainy day fund to help balance what we don't have with the police officers that are not secure with funding, the fire department which are not secure with funding. We have the state workers that have funding that comes from the state that is not really stable.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you look at the whole 9 yards, it's a lot of instability throughout the whole structure.
Mm-hmm. And so you're talking about some sort of rainy day fund to backfill that or to cover that.
Why don't we have one now? I've always asked myself, why hasn't that been set up some time ago? Because it gives you not necessarily a comfort zone,
Mm-hmm.
but it has something in place so that when conditions like this happen, you have a bed to lay on. We have nothing.
So, Councilman, let's transition from that because you do go back a while.
Mm-hmm.
This is 2012, which would mean that you go back
1997.
1997. So you were actually around when the first round of POBs on
Mhm.
PFERs were issued, and you were around when the second round of POBs
Correct.
were just approved. Help me understand the thinking that went into that.
In terms of where
Why
Why I
issue the
support-
original POBs and why issue these POBs?
I've read a number of your articles.
I'm
that-
glad
that
somebody
you,
did.
I think we all have that you've written regarding both transactions. I think one of the things that we as council members have that don't have the kind of background and knowledge that you have and others have is that we rely on city staff. Yeah, there's some of us who may raise questions, but ultimately, when it comes time to vote, you do it based on the information that is provided to you. And at the time of vote, we all thought it made sense to do it. I know that doesn't answer your question.
Well, actually, and I must admit, I don't remember how your vote was in 97, 98, I believe it was.
Well, I voted for it.
You voted for it.
Mm-hmm.
But as I recall, it was a close vote, and it was not, there were some dissenters, including your former councilman, former city attorney, Mr. Russo, who had grave concerns about it, as I recall at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So there were people who were saying, maybe we ought to slow down this train.
Yeah, well, you had, I don't know if John was the only one.
No, he wasn't. No, yeah.
I'm trying to remember who else on the council at the time.
Ignacio would admit that back then he voted for it.
Well, he voted for it.
And now admits that he made a mistake.
Well,
Yeah.
if I can recall, he voted for it.
He did.
And at that time, he didn't think it was a mistake.
Yeah, no, at that time, absolutely.
So
Yeah.
it's easy.
we will take him at his word that he didn't at that time think it was a mistake. Yeah.
But, it's hard to think back, 16 years ago on how everything played out. But again, we rely on staff. We rely on staff to give us the best information to allow us to make an intelligent decision that we believe is an intelligent decision at the time.
You know the issue, or you?
No,
Okay.
if you can give me a brief.
Yeah, it has to do with issuing bonds for debt, retirement debt. It turned out to be a horrible deal for the city.
Mm.
It cost them about $250 million.
Okay. You want me to comment on that?
If you're not familiar with it, no, actually,
Okay.
because
I didn't
I
think
don't
so.
think there's much
Not much I can
gained
say.
by just talking about.
air. No.
I mean,
What
So-
was was, and
what was
is now
was,
now.
and I need to ask Larry about it because he was there, and so. We're concerned about a city where there's a budget that's really very, very tight, in which you're not even making your minimum payments on your retiree health pay program, in which a city that is right now on just retirement debt alone. I mean, do you have a handle, Larry, on how much that unfunded liability is for all your retirement programs?
No, not off the top of my head.
And
It's pretty high.
it's pretty high. Yeah, it's pretty high.
Yeah.
It's about $2.2 billion.
I had started doing some reading on it. Didn't get too far. It's a lot of stuff.
So, help me understand. Let me start with you, Larry. Where do we go with this? Have you thought about what this represents for starters? What that $2.2 billion represents?
I mean, that's a lot of money. The city administrator is going to be presenting to the council a 5-year budget projection, and part of that budget projection will also have a path, certainly a path, that she's going to be recommending to the council as we follow the path to show us how do we reduce that indebtedness. And so we're all sitting back waiting for that report to be generated and brought to the council so we can begin to ask and raise questions.
What do you think give me your vision of what the implications are going to be for the future for this. What
Well,
are the
I think
implications?
if we can't get a handle on it, I think long term, it is going to have an adverse impact on the city. But our staff is working very diligently, looking at solutions that they want to bring to the council for our consideration. And so we're all sitting back waiting for that to happen. It's an issue that we're all concerned with.
What would you say if I said it is already having a very adverse impact on you?
Then I would ask for you to tell me to be a little bit
How?
more specific.
Well, your unfunded liability makes up just the mortgage payment or the credit card payment, if you will. The installment payment on it is millions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
That if you didn't have the unfunded liability, you could hire a whole lot more cops today.
Don't disagree.
And it's probably going to get worse.
Well, I hope it doesn't get worse. I hope that there's a path that our staff will bring to us that will allow us to maneuver down those obstacles to the extent where it does not have that kind of devastating impact on our ability to govern the city and to provide the services that people expect for us to provide in the city. But we won't know that until the city manager, the city administrator, bring us this 5-year budget projection along with some other issues and questions that a number of my colleagues have raised and asked her to provide in that report when it comes to the council for our deliberation.
Do you think there's any path out that does not involve more cuts?
I hope that there's a path that does not require us to make any more additional cuts. Right now, we didn't make any additional cuts. We had an extra $10 million from an increase in revenues that we didn't lay off anyone when we just did the mid-cycle budget review. And my understanding from a meeting that I attended last night with the city administrator, we don't look for any budget cuts in the next fiscal year. But it's going to be.
But you have a huge credit card bill.
Yeah,
Huge.
I don't disagree. And we've got to figure.
So you may be able to scrape together the money to make most of the minimum payment on the credit card bill, if you will.
Well,
right?
I hope it's not just the minimal payment that we make.
That's if you're doing more, that's great. But you're not even making the minimum right now.
Well, I'm just hoping that that the downturn in the economy, that we've made it through the bad times, and that we can begin to see some light at the end of the tunnel. But we'll really get a sense on that when the city administrator and her staff bring the next report to us.
So Beverly, give me your sense and your analysis of city finances as you see it.
Well, I think a lot of bad decisions were made, and it's caught up with it. And now we have to, they have to rectify the situation. Same thing. They have to now rectify the situation through working with city staff. The thing that I look at is that city staff is fine, but then what role are you playing as far as working with the city staff and infusing what your vision is for them to look for? What kind of research and development are they actually looking at, and do you have anything to give them to follow or look for as far as future planning? Because right now it's a crunch. Okay, and so what you want to look at is not just the crunch, but you also want to plan ahead. You want not just 1 year, 2 years, but you want to have a 5-year plan. Something that you can look at, fall back on, and rely on permanently. Stop looking at temporary funding. That's one of the problems, is you have temporary funding. You need to look at something that's more stable, something that is going to be sustainable, that is recyclable, basically, is going around in a circle, but it's yet generating. And then what I see is that waiting on staff, I couldn't do that. I would have to let staff do what they have to do, but then I'd be out there looking at other venues or scenarios or other operations of how to other areas that are in our same or particular same situation, how did they get out of it? What strategies did they use and apply to their system that can probably be transported over to our area and solidify?
How worried are both of you about the fiscal health, the fiscal future of the city?
I'm very optimistic about the future of the city. I think we have this council has some bright and smart people that are on it. Libby Schaff, Councilmember Kernahan, and others that are asking, I think, some of the right questions. And I think with the welcome addition of Deanna Santana in with Scott Johnson, in Fred Blackwell, and the other team members that she's assembled, I'm very optimistic about the future of this city. I think we've turned the corner on the economy, and I think we're going to be okay. I think it may be some incredible challenges for us to hurdles to get over, but I think we'll be able to successfully get over those hurdles. But I'm very optimistic about the future of the city of Oakland. And I think I'm not just saying this because I'm in here being interviewed by the Tribune and reading the articles and the issues that you've raised and others have raised. But I think, there's a lot of us who read those articles that are printed by you and others and reach out to folks that have the kind of expertise that you have to get answers in helping us to make decisions. And I think as long as individuals like yourself and others are writing, raising the questions, and holding us accountable, it's going to prompt us to continue to raise questions internally within the bureaucracy that I'm a part of, and try to get information that will allow us to make intelligent decisions. Because Deanna's really put together a real good core group of staff people, and I think as long as she's there and her team is intact, then I think we will be in a better position to make good informed decisions. I don't think we've had that information in the past, and so some of the decisions that we've made, we solely rely on staff and just didn't ask the hard questions that needed to get asked.
Well, let's come back to that, because Beverly said that you guys made a lot of bad decisions, did you?
Well, I think there's some decisions that I think there were some bad decisions that we've made in the past, and those are in the past. I think going forward, I think Deanna's been there a little over a year now, and Scott Johnson, who's one of the most well-respected individuals in public financing, certainly is a breath of fresh air.
So what would you say were some of the mistakes?
I would rather not.
Well, I'd like to get a sense
No,
of...
I understand, but I would rather not.
Beverly, would you like to comment on what you think the mistakes were?
Well, I think one is that they solely relied on staff without actually looking into the pros and cons, weighing them through, without looking at the pros and cons of whatever was submitted to them, because they, as Larry said, they relied solely on staff to provide them with the information that they needed to make an informed decision. My question would be is, what did you do once you received that to validate what the staff had that would make you decide to make a decision, yay or nay, one way or the other? And I think one of the things that you look at is that you begin to rely on other people as opposed to actually stepping in the mucky muck yourself, because that's the easy way out. Often
The mucky muck, huh?
the mucky muck. Often it places you in a lackadaisical position, and you get comfortable with it because it seems to be okay. But that's surface. You need to get under the meat of, under the skin of it, other than just looking at it looks good. But is it good? What are the ramifications? What are the long-term effects? And I think that was part of what was lacking in the decision makings that they had, is because they did rely solely on certain people.
What do you think about that, Larry? Did you guys?
I think you rely on the people that have the expertise. I mean, you know, city council jobs are supposed to be part-time jobs, even though, you know, it's been full-time for me. And so, you know, you rely on the people that are hired with the expertise, that provide you with the information that is to help form the basis for the decision that you make. And so, you know, we've, a lot of us on the council have done that we rely on what staff generate in their documents with the reports that come to not just the finance committee, but all the committees that council members sit on, and then ultimately when it gets up to the full council for us to make intelligent decisions, hopefully are intelligent decisions. But you make those decisions based on the information that is right there in front of you.
Give me, guys, each of you, give me your thoughts on gang injunctions.
I support gang injunctions, just like I support curfew.
That was the other one I was going to ask you, but I figured one or the other would do the trick, yeah? And-
Just like I support a lottery ordinance.
I'm sorry, what?
Lottery
Oh,
lottery
yeah, I
ordinances.
understand, yeah, right.
And so I've supported all of those in the past, but there's not the political will on the council to do either or. And so there's some people in the city that don't want Oakland to be a safe place to live and to raise their families. You know, it's like on the curfew ordinance that I brought forward that was fashioned after the Long Beach ordinance. You know, I couldn't get one vote to get it out of committee. The loitering ordinance, when Chief Richard Word was the police chief, that asked me to carry the legislation, which I did, but we barely got it through the council on with a majority vote. And then when we did, there was a 1-year sunset put on it. And when the chief realized that that really wasn't that broad base of support, he never implemented it. And so it just went by the wayside. And, you know, the gang injunction, you know, it would be nice if the community who's living in fear would turn up and show their support for the things that they're asking us to do. Certainly, it would make a big difference in some of my colleagues there thinking, but that's been a real struggle.
Beverly, gang injunctions?
Gang injunctions. I had found a report. I'm not sure if it's Robert something, and he had a plan that made the crime starters responsible for their actions. And rather than an injunction, I think that would be a better approach. And I'm just trying to look real quick before you get to it to see if I can find the name of the report.
Would it be correct that you don't support gang injunctions, or is that what you're saying?
I would have to, in order to make an informed decision, I would have to look at all sides of what a gang injunction actually represents. Would it criminalize? Would it stigmatize? Would it work? which a lot of things, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. I grew up in a time when we had curfew, and my brother always went out the window. Of course, he always got caught, and they had a detention center for him. But you need to look at what ramifications a gang injunction is going to have, and whether or not it's really effective, and how effective it is. Who's a gang? I could be standing on the corner with 5 girls. Does that make me a gang? You know? So I'd have to look at the whole thing before I say yay or nay. I would look at alternatives to a gang injunction and see what would be more viable. I was trying to think of the name of that report that was done. Let's see if I have it.
Larry, you voted for the giving back, or giving back that furlough day.
Mm-hmm.
You're on. What was your thinking on that? Because that seems to have been the difference, basically, between the two budget proposals, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah.
The furlough day. And what was the dollar amount of that?
I don't know the exact dollar amount. I can get back to you on it. I just thought it made sense.
Why?
Because the men and women of the Oakland, the city of Oakland, they really have gone local 10-1 and local 21, and I can't think of the number for the IBEW workers. I mean,
I didn't ask you to bring the chart, but I'm sure everyone needs one to keep track of it.
But they've been there with us from some very difficult and challenging times, and so they they were impacted by our decisions in terms of laying off workers and the whole furlough days, and so it was a way to give something back to them, and so I supported giving something back because they've given so much to help us through some very difficult and challenging times in the city.
Could you afford that?
Yes, we could. And if I had to vote for it tomorrow, I'd do it again.
Beverly,
Yes.
your thoughts
On furlough days?
on the giving back that furlough day?
Well,
You
we've been in a
familiar with the
position
vote we're talking about?
for the city.
Yeah.
Not really. I can speak about myself where we had furlough days, but they did give it back. They restored the time that we took, which I thought was pleasant, but at the time it was very hard because when you're talking about a furlough, even though it's based on salary, it's still, it's like you're penalizing me for working because somebody screwed up over here. Or because the economy had a downturn and we weren't prepared or cushioned to be able to support the after effect of it. And suffering, because you have a lot of people that are working from paycheck to paycheck. And one day, more or less, is a hurt, but 2 days, it takes them from being able to meet their bills to standing in the food line. Sometimes you have to make hard decisions. And if that preserves a job, then I would support it. Because
If what preserves a job?
If a furlough day preserves a person from being completely without a job, I would take the sacrifice of 1 day. Because at least they have a job and they're still working. If you don't take a job or take furlough, then it puts a strain on the budget as a whole, and we can't support it, which means that X, Y number of jobs will have to be terminated. But the first thing you look at are all those jobs that are sitting there on the budget that are planned in the budget financially, but are not actually filled. That's one way of eliminating part of what the budget amount can be, because you have it factored in, which means that you can hire somebody and put in there. But if you eliminate that job before you eliminate a person, then you've saved a person's job, but you've also added money into the budget that was already factored in.
Let me ask you a question. Under the governor, well, currently, police in the city, as I recall, are paying 9% of salary toward their pension. Under the governor / legislature's pension bill that was just passed, come 2018, the city could impose 12%. Or you can negotiate between now and then. Should police be paying 12% of salary toward their pension?
Are they grandfathering? I didn't read the bill.
Are they
Grandfathering, which means someone that's already there would not change. But anyone hired after a certain day.
No, this is not how much they're
requirement.
going to receive. This is how much they're going to pay
They're gonna be towards their
pension. Towards setting aside money for their pension.
Like right now, they pay 9%.
They not until they want to
9%
add another
salary.
3% in 12 years from now.
They pay if the city wanted to, they could force them to pay up to 12% come by 2018.
2018.
Is that a good idea or bad?
Depends on where the economy is. I don't know. I can't really speak on that because I'm not in the budget area, and I can't. That's a projection that is not.
Very.
But you did say you can negotiate with them.
You could negotiate. You would negotiate presumably toward that goal
Yes.
if you were going to. You could negotiate between now and then. If you don't get there by 2018, you could impose it. But my question is that a good goal or not?
The 12%?
Yeah,
Uh,
for police.
Well, yeah, I think everything is open to negotiations. I think given the fiscal position of the city, certainly out of respect for not just, it is only just for police and fire? Or is it for
Well,
everyone?
fire's already there actually
Right.
in your city. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you
And for your other workers, the way the formula works, I'm not so sure that theirs could be increased. I
it's
haven't
only
done
police.
Well, police have higher pension costs. And so the way the numbers work in the bill, clearly you could go to 12% for police. For other workers, you could go, if I recall correctly, to 9%. And they're already at 8%, if I'm correct. So the difference isn't significant, and their pensions, frankly, aren't nearly as costly. So that's why I was specifically asking about the police.
Yeah, I mean, given council, even though there's some new council members from District 3 and 1, and depending on
You're
what
gonna have a
happens
whole
in our
new-
district.
Yeah, you're going to have new colleagues no matter what.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to figure out where everybody will be at. I know if the council stayed the way it is right now, then I'm almost certain that it would be a sit down, a meet and confer issue that will sit and.
But where would you be on the notion of the
You-
12%?
It's hard to say. It's hard to say because I've not read the legislation.
Well, trust me, that's what the legislation
Well, no,
said.
I trust you.
For purposes of this discussion, my question to you though is 12% a good idea?
Certainly given the fiscal condition of the city at the time, certainly you would everything would have to be on the tape, and hopefully this 5-year budget projection that the city administrator revenues projection, certainly you've got to take all of that into account if in fact you're going to impose a 12% on police. I wouldn't just go and impose it without sitting down and negotiating. I certainly
addition, you
respect
need to
that.
look
I
at-
certainly respect that process.
Yeah. In addition, you would have to look at what is the cost of living going to be, and how that cost of living is going to affect that 12% as far as salary, because then it means that getting a decreased salary by 10% or whatever.
Everything else being equal, there's no
Yeah.
question. It would mean that they'd have to pay more.
Yeah.
That's absolutely right. The question is, given given the pensions they're receiving,
Would you do?
given the city's fiscal condition, and by 2018,
We don't know what's going to be after.
you're still going to have problems. You're still going to have big
I
problems.
don't disagree with you.
So I guess my question is that something?
I mean, certainly, I think anyone who was here in front of you, Dan, would say, yeah, we would look at it, and given, the time and the place of when you've got to make that decision.
Yeah.
I don't think you'll find one council member that would, if they could change places with me right now, say, yeah, we will impose it.
By the way, you realize for state workers, the governor's plan says thou shalt.
Right.
Yeah, right.
I
And all the cities are always complaining they don't have the hammer to do the same. Well, now they have the hammer. Do they want to use it? Is
Yeah.
really the question.
It's all about political will.
It's all about. That's right. I guess that's what I'm testing.
Well, if I get reelected, I certainly will call you and solicit your
I'm not
input.
actually. You don't have to call me because you'll know what I think when I write it. It'll be out there.
Oh, I know. You will say impose at 12%.
Yeah. So, folks, what else should we consider taking into consideration? I know this has been heavily economy and budgetary focused. The reason for it is, as I said, we're really concerned about the fiscal plight of the city. I know you both really care about safety, and our feeling is that if you don't deal with the fiscal problems, you can't solve the safety problems. Yeah. So that's why such a heavy emphasis in this discussion.
When I saw you, I knew what it was.
You knew where it was going, didn't you? So, but are there other points or other things for us to keep in mind in all of this?
Well, I think you've got to be the judge of that. I think you've got to be the judge, particularly as it relates to my district. There's a website that some folks have put up that says Larry Reed must go. 16 years haven't done nothing. I think one only has to remember what my district looked like 16 years ago and where it is now. And I think if you look at where it is now, certainly it's much better off than when it was 16 years ago. We've created more retail in my district than any place in the city. We've created more affordable housing in my district than any place else in the city. Yeah, we still have the pathologies of crime, but that Oakland is experiencing is no different than any other major urban city in this country. We've also created more jobs in my district than any place else. And so if you look at the transformation of the district that I represent, this is not to take anything away from those that served before me, Desi, Wish Jones, Leo Bazile. But certainly there's been more resources put in my district than any other part of the city.
Can you send me the statistics on the jobs and
Yes.
so forth?
Mhm.
Would you please?
Yeah.
So I know the basis on which those are those.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Okay. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'll get that
Okay.
to you.
Well, I have a different. I live there.
You live there.
I live there.
I hope you live there
I've
if you're
been
running
living
that
there
district.
I've been living there for a very, very long time.
Because if you don't live there, we got a problem,
got a problem.
right off the bat.
And where I live has deteriorated. Okay.
How so?
I've had to put up a perimeter fence because of the drug paraphernalia, prostitutes making their way into my yard, vermin, and the unsafe factor of maybe someone's hiding to pounce on you when you come out. I've watched properties deteriorate because of poor homeowner, not necessarily the owner, but the homeowner that rents the property that doesn't become a slumlord. Just put it that way, just becomes a slumlord. And the people not being aware of their rights as a renter on what they can demand, what they cannot demand because of the lack of information. There are some things, there are a lot of good things going on. One of the things that I think need to be done is that we need to establish a solid business district. I'm not sure if we have one. I know that there are things that are coming in and jobs are being made, but there are a lot of areas that are just neglected. My son, he's 21, and we went into an area. He says, "I didn't even know this was here. I wouldn't come here at night." You know, why not? Because it's scary. It's unkept. So certain areas, yes, you can go to. I mean, just from my house to maybe a half a mile away.
Let me ask you something.
It's different.
Let me ask you something, Beverly. Do you call Larry when you have complaints?
No,
Because?
as a community advocate, I'm always out there working with organizations on getting involved with the community.
Okay,
as a
so
whole.
then let me ask you this question. Do you have a specific problem with anything he has done?
Not so far
Okay.
that I can say that.
I mean,
have a
I guess what
problem
I'm
with.
asking is there something that he has done that you disagree with that you feel you would have done better? You know, because frankly, when we look at replacing incumbents, we want a reason to replace an incumbent. You know, we're asking, well, what would make you better at the job than Larry? Because he brings 16 years of experience,
He
for
brings
better or
16
worse,
years of
right?
experience, but at the same time, I have to look at the condition of the area that I'm living in. Also, when I moved there because it was pristine, it was beautiful, and now it's.
You moved there how long ago?
Let's see. I've been there since 70, 69, 70. Yeah, about 40 years. Okay. And I moved there because it was such a beautiful place. And now it's quite different because, well, one, you have to look at the change of times. We have had environmental changes. We've had cultural changes. We do have a lot of little businesses, but the facades on the businesses are not very well looked at. When you go
But here's my real
what I'm
question.
looking at is while he's over here doing this, certain areas are not being taken care of.
But, you know, I mean, Oakland throughout the city, but particularly certain sections of the city, have been hit by factors that arguably may not have been all under Larry's control,
Oh,
nor yours had you been.
I'm not saying that it
council
is. I'm
member.
not saying that
So
it
I
is.
guess my question is, do you think you could have done a better job?
Maybe.
Larry, you have any final words in response to Beverly's comments?
I think you can look at, I mean, my district when I took over was always known as the killing fields, even though we're still having, you know, some of those pathologies. But if you look, it's like, you know, nobody remembers what the 60 acres across the street from Brookfield Senior Center used to be. 60 acres is some of the most contaminated dirt anywhere in the state of California. Now you've got 250,000 square foot FedEx building. You've got Pet Food Express with their corporate headquarters there, their distribution center, 100 and some odd jobs. You got Just Dessert, another 70 some odd jobs. You got Sleep Train in the back.
There may be some calorie problems on Just Desserts, but we can talk about that.
But it's different.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go at Durant Square, people don't remember what Durant Square used to be. Well, it's 263 units of condos and 46 units of home ownership. We only had one grocery store, and that was Pack and Save. Now there's Food Max, 48,000 square foot, that employs 100 and some odd employees. You got 2 car dealerships that sit on 22 acres of vacant land that used to exist. And then people don't remember where some of the most successful retail in the city of Oakland, what that used to be. The old Airport Hyatt Regency and the old Century Movie Theater. Now it's 250,000 square foot of some of the most successful retail. And then you go down on 98th Avenue, then you've got, 5 acres used to be the old Rattles Farm site, just a big old aluminum building where it used to be their office. Now you got Starbucks, you got Organic Choice, you got Wendy's, you got a gas station. And so the people that work in that area come there and shop and spend. And when that airport connector gets built out, you watch how that corridor change, and you watch how the Oakland Airport expand and to create the kind of jobs that we all want. it's going to be a truly incredible place. We built five we built 5 hotels on my watch, and more retail than any place else in the city. And we've got this Coliseum City that I've been working on for 16 years. That if that happens, that will change Oakland forever. But yesterday, I without divulging who the names are, the 2 major corporations that out there looking at that Zone Technology site, that 265,000 square foot building that is going to have a ton of people that could be working out there and want to talk about buying our 4 acres right adjacent to it to build another building for a campus, just bringing new people to work into an area. I tell people, watch and see what happens over the next 10 years. Understanding with the issues that you raised about the financial problems of the city, that Oakland, the future of this city is bright. If we get the Oakland Army base down, that's anchoring the western part of the city. If we are successful with the Coliseum City, that vision of being able to keep 2 sports franchises, whether there's one at the Coliseum or one down at Jack London Square on the Howard Street Terminal. And if we fill in the piece along Embarcadero, the signature properties, 33 units of housing, 200,000 square foot of retail, 30 acres of open space, this city will be totally different with new people living in here and new affordable housing to make sure that people are here in Oakland will have a decent place to live and a job that's going to provide for them to be able to sustain their living. This city will not be like the city that we know it now. Oakland is poised for greatness, even though right now that we are faced with some real challenging financial issues. But I think ultimately all of that is going to work itself out. I love this city, and this city is going to change. It is going to be a city that we're all proud of. And Howard Jordan is the right person to be heading up our police department. We are and we will make this city a safe place for people to raise and to live. And people have to assume personal responsibility if they're going to be able to live in safe neighborhoods and not think that we as a government provide all the answers for doing just that.
What I'm looking at is, there's the future, but what happened over the last 16 years, I'm proud of the things that it's done. The thing is that we've lost a lot also. And while we're busy implementing new, what is the factor that's going to say that it is sustainable? And that's my big concern, is the sustainability. We can open up a restaurant, but if it's on the wrong side of the track, who's going to go? Other than those that are coming from outside the city that passes by. It's not local to my area. It's just like the Walmart that was put up. The Walmart is on the other side of the freeway. I'm on this side. So what happened here? When I go shopping, Food Max is fine, but it's nasty. That's the bottom line, okay? I'm getting ready to start taking pictures because it's just nasty. They don't keep it clean. I'm getting ready to make a formal complaint to their manager to clean up their act because I can't go to a place. Why is Safeway clean and yours isn't? I mean, what's the difference? Don't you care about the people that shop here? I've gone there with didn't want to go all the way to San Leandro to get something, so I go there. Wilted. I can't do wilted vegetables, old stuff. Buy meat, and you have to check it to make sure it's not rancid. Something's wrong with that picture, which means that management is either cutting corners or because they're getting ready to get shot down by me. I said to myself, the last time I bought something, I said, oh no. I started to freeze it and sent it to the Food and Drug Administration. But yes, we have a grocery store, but it's not a very good grocery store, and it's a nasty grocery store. I know that they're working on the project on 107th and MacArthur, but that's yet to come. And we're still talking future, and we're talking jobs, which is a good thing. But still, yet, it's a lot of work to be done.
I certainly hope that you guys will come and cover in October. I think it's going to be October the 6th. But Kroger's is building 3 72,000 square foot grocery stores. And the first one's going to be in my district, and the pad is already ready. It's been certified.
And where are the other two?
The other two, one's going to be on 66 in San Leandro, right across the street from Lion Creek Crossing. And the third one will be built over on Adelant Market and in Grand Avenue. But the first one is being built in my district. So we're working out a date because folks need to fly out from Cincinnati. So it'll be either on October the 6th or October the 10th. And then once their contractor come in, and then we're off and running in 7 months, a brand new store that's going to hire 130 some odd Oakland residents will open up in 7 months. And then Ross Department Store, so our residents don't have to go to San Leandro. You'll be able to do it right there in the 29,000 square foot store. Ann and Linen, Rainbow Apparel, DaVita, which is a blood dialysis facility, is building their own 8,200 square foot building. We're building a new building for Head Start, and then Chase Bank is coming and building a bank. So Foothill Square, as we've known it in the past, is going to be returned back to its old heydays. All new facade, and it is a $50 million project that's underway right as we speak. October the 6th, October the 10th, we will have the groundbreaking for the general contractor for Kroger's, to get that store built and have it built in 7 months. Altogether, there'll be about 300 new jobs created right there on 106 in MacArthur, and then I'm working to straighten out the 106th Avenue ramp. And to make it easier for folks to get there. And Oakland residents should not have to go to San Leandro and shop. They can spend their money here. We can capture the sales tax revenues and put it to use in providing services for the residents. And if anybody remember what Foothill Square used to be,
yeah. It used to be really, really nice.
And it's coming back to life.
Folks, thank you very much. I appreciate both of you taking the time. This has been really helpful.
Well, I appreciate you guys.
coming in.
Do you mind if I just ask one last question?
Yes.
Actually, very, if there's a pattern, because you guys, well, first of all, around the POBs, there's a pattern of with Wells Fargo. There were national stories about Wells Fargo and the predatory lending, and the lawsuits against Wells Fargo for predatory lending in communities like Oakland, and they were known to have made quite a few predatory loans in Oakland that led to the foreclosure crisis. The report that came to you didn't mention that, but there were national stories, and not only did you guys approve it, but the information you asked the Wells Fargo representatives to bring back, showing that they were actually adhering to the city's guidelines, they never brought it back. They never answered it. And aside from Desley, who only abstained, everyone else supported them having the city's banking business.
Well, for us is that when I don't sit on the finance committee.
Well, no,
And so
this
it got
is the full
discussed.
council.
I know.
So I'm just saying there's a pattern, and one of the issues that I'm wondering is with Chase, for example, and with Lehman, those were major players in the foreclosure crisis, and you seem to be willing to do business with them still. And I just wonder if that's a pattern with Wells Fargo, with the POBs, and there's a couple other things as well that are like having the banks be responsible for their blight and for maintaining
Yes.
the council had to be kicked and shoved to make them responsible. So if the council is relying on the staff to give information, you're not doing the homework, what's to say in the next years that anything's going to get any better?
Well, Lehman Brothers own Oakland Labor Hospital. It's 167 acres.
I understand that.
I can't change that. If Lehman Brothers, who was partnering with SunCal, and SunCal is out of the picture based on their lawsuit, now Lehman Brothers say we want to hold on to this piece of dirt and we want to build
But let's talk about the pattern with Wells Fargo and the pattern with the other things that I brought up. The pattern of not making informed decisions.
On the issue relative to Wells Fargo, that went through the finance committee. I didn't sit on the finance committee. I didn't review it. it passed out of finance committee. So for me, I assumed that it was well vetted, and that's why I made it up to the full council.
You guys sent them back for information, and they didn't even
I
provide that information.
don't sit on the finance committee.
No, not the finance committee. The full council sent them back for information.
I
and they didn't
don't-
bring it back.
I don't remember that.
Well, I
I'd
mean,
have to
there's a
backtrack.
videotape of it I can send to you. But
If
the
you
video-
would,
Yeah, I'll send
Angela,
it.
I'd appreciate it.
But so it works with me the pattern, and also with the criticism over Darman. You guys supported wholeheartedly the pot dispensaries
Yes.
in Oakland as a tax
Mhm.
base, and that didn't pan out for reasons that were beyond your control. But now there's allegations that you tipped off Darman.
No, that wasn't. I didn't. If that was the case, then the police department would have raised an issue with it. I did not tip Darman off.
Okay.
The
Well,
issue.
Go ahead.
The issue with Darman is, as it relates to me, the article that was printed, I don't know if it was printed in, the East Bay, Bay City. Bay City. If you talk to anybody at OPD, they'll tell you I didn't tip off Darman. The young man, Christopher Miller, is a friend of Dar, called Dar and say, Chris get a phone call from his neighbor and said, OPD is raiding your house. Chris called Dar and said, Dar, can you check? And so I called and said, are you guys at Chris Miller's home? And I was advised yes. And so I told Dar, if he hasn't done anything wrong, then he needs to go and turn himself in to the Oakland Police Department. I did not tip them off that his house was being raided. He got a phone call from his neighbor, and then subsequently I got a phone call. And so I encourage Chris, so OPD is not out there looking for him. If you did not do anything wrong, go turn yourself in, because I have the utmost respect for his mother and father who I know. It's like, go turn yourself in.
Okay, I mean, that's another thing with his parents. The taxi company.
I'm not talking about Dar's parents. I'm talking about Chris Miller.
Oh, okay.
Chris Miller's parents, I know his mother's in real estate. And so for me, it was tell CJ he needs to go turn himself in. Don't have the police to come look for him. If he did not do anything wrong, then he shouldn't have a problem with going and turn himself in. And that's what he did. He went and turned himself in to the police department, to the officers who were there.
So do you think that the relationship with Dar was a little cozy, though, between the city and him and the other dispensaries as well? Oh, well, he didn't have the dispensary, but the other people in the industry, do you think that the relationship was too cozy between the council
With who?
the
Like
council members?
with Jeff?
I mean, do you feel like you were too close to encouraging the industry to be active in Oakland?
To encourage it?
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody across the state of California was looking to see how they can increase revenues based on the dispensaries and how to tax it and how to generate revenue, because the city was going through some very difficult and challenging times. You already had Harborside, who was earning, I think, anywhere in the neighborhood of $28 million and paying $2 million back to the city in sales tax revenues. And so every member of the council was looking to see how we could generate additional revenues to minimize the budget reductions that we had to make.
And do you think that you crossed any ethical lines in trying to encourage them?
No, I don't think so. But you don't see any of my colleagues right now talking about that we need to expand the number of dispensaries. And, I asked Arturo, who's the deputy city administrator, whether or not we should even move forward, given what was happening with the U.S. Attorney General's office, or whether or not we should even move forward with issuing those additional permits. That we should wait and see how everything played out. But some of my colleagues wanted to continue to move forward. But I was reluctant to after they started shutting them down. And some folks.
I just wanted to ask you. I forgot the other day, so I just
I
wanted
know.
to make sure that we covered that. And Beverly, I wonder, would you support? I mean, what is your thoughts on the medical marijuana dispensaries, and especially the large-scale facilities, because those are close or in districts. Well, I don't know if they were in district setting, but they're at least very close. So what do you think about these plans?
I don't have enough information on the plans, but I can't say I do. I can't say I don't. But I don't think it's a drug, even if it's because I've read something that said that they wanted to make it recreational, and to me that's like drinking and driving. If it's for medical use,
We're talking about the relying on dispensaries for taxes.
Taxes.
Tax base. That's what I'm asking.
yeah, but then there are things that come along with those responsibilities. Even though you're looking at taxes, there's still a responsibility for the product that may influence or impact our district.
Right.
Because
if you lived here for 40 years, you must have some like a yes or no about whether you would support. I mean, whether you support the tax dispensaries in Oakland or not. I mean, you're a citizen and you live here, so is it yes or no?
I can't give you real clear.
Well, what would you do?
Because
if you were in the council or
I haven't been. I can't give you a clear yes or no unless I look at what it is and what it involves and what possible scenarios can come as a fallout effect of it. I understand what you're trying to get me to say is yes or no, and and I'm saying I haven't been exposed to a lot of drug activities or drug uses or pharmacy uses or whatever it is the dispensaries are about. So it would be irresponsible for me to sit here and just off the top of my head say yes I support it or no I don't support it without a clear understanding of what it represents. I know we're talking about taxes, but I have to look at the product.
Yeah, I just thought. I mean, if you're running for city council, I would think that you would already have done that homework. But I understand
Well,
you can't
you
know everything.
can't know everything. That's what I'm saying is you can't know everything. You can do homework in certain areas, but not all areas.
Look, cities are looking at it since the voters of the state of California say for medical purpose it's fine. So cities are, I mean, this was probably one of the most difficult times in city histories in the state of California. It was looking for ways to generate additional revenues. And certainly, given, Harborside $28 million a year in providing medical cannabis to its patients, and they're paying the city almost $2 million in sales tax. I mean, obviously, it was a way to generate additional sales tax revenues to help us through a very difficult time. There's not one member of my council that voted against it.
My only concern is there wasn't enough scrutiny because the council was so eager to have that money that there wasn't enough scrutiny of the businesses, and there was too much reliance on the staff to recommend this or recommend that, and things.
But you got to remember, just along this corridor, there were 16 dispensaries before we reduced it to 4. There was 16 dispensaries.
Yeah, that may be, but that's also that was sort of a whole different issue.
And we started regulating it.
Yeah, but anyway, I don't want to belabor the point. It's just I appreciate your time. So it's fine.
Folks, thank you
No,
very
thank you
much.
guys.
I very much